Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome to Poll Review, the least popular of all the live streams that I do. So if you're here, then you are hardcore, and that's awesome. If you're going to do something, do it properly. That's what I say. Anyway, this is the live stream where not only do we go over the polls that I release every day on my YouTube channel, but we talk about the implications of the concepts involved. These are usually to do with hiring. Sometimes some of them, they have something to do with entrepreneurship or side hustles, but mainly about hiring and careers, right? And the reason I post these polls in the first place is to get people thinking about some of these concepts, right? They're topics that I know some people just don't think about, and maybe they should, right? If you're looking to get hired and you're not thinking of this topic, it's something that you should be thinking of. So that's why I post those, and this is where we get to discuss it and talk about those topics. So there is a chat. Get in the chat if you are here. And we are going to go over, I believe, 7 questions from the last 7 days. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat while we're doing this. And before we get started, just a reminder, I have my Get Hired course there if you are intimidated and lost and you find yourself having to do a job search and you don't know really a way to go about it. You don't know all the different facets of it and you want to get a crash course in that. That's why I created that course. A lot of people have taken it. It's been very useful for a lot of people. So consider checking that out if it's something you're interested in. Link in description. Okay, let's get started here. So this was the topic from a week ago. Okay. And this is it. It said the topic that confuses me most is, and this was kind of surprising to me. Seems that you guys are most confused and presumably interested in learning about salary negotiation. So that was interesting for me. Networking. 24% of people said they're most confused about networking. That's interesting. That's really interesting. I know there's a segment of people out there that when you try and talk about networking, as it relates to getting a job or enhancing your career, you're obviously striking a nerve with people. They think it's some kind of scam or conspiracy, which of course it isn't. It's in fact the most popular way that people get jobs. They get it through some form of networking. And this was confirmed on my channel a couple of weeks ago when I asked people, how did you get your job? Was it through some form of networking? Most people said yes. So there you go. I get a lot of angry sort of comments on my videos when I talk about networking, people that are vehemently opposed to the entire idea. It's not this big negative thing that you think it is, nor is it a exclusionary, impossible thing to figure out how to do. One of the reasons I talk about it is because I myself am an introvert, and I realized many years ago, networking is A, useful, and B, something that introverts can do, and it doesn't have to be like pulling teeth. It's actually can be something quite natural. So there you go. Cover letters, resumes, and interview questions. I was surprised that these ranked so low. People are most interested in salary negotiation and networking. I've done some videos on salary negotiation. I'm going to do some more. I have a video coming out tomorrow about salary, in particular, how you fill it out on an online form. Okay, but so we will be talking about that more. And we got some interesting comments here. But there you go. Okay, let's get rid of that. Okay, here, 6 days ago, I put this out. A public company has a duty to provide jobs and thus distribute money to people. And the reason I put this out was because I wanted to see if people know what a public company is. Obviously, a lot of people do. And so to answer, I think the very first question I got was like, public? What does that mean? Anyway, public company just means publicly traded. Okay, that's all it means. It means that the ownership is publicly traded. Okay, it's not necessarily locked up in the sort of clutches of one or few owners. It can be sold freely. Okay, and there are implications of this if you have a publicly traded company. it might turn out that people you don't want owning part of your company end up owning it, right? That's the implications of it. That's what a hostile takeover is for those people who don't know. But now, coming to the larger issue, a publicly traded company, does it have a duty to provide jobs and thus distribute money to people through jobs? The answer is no. No, it doesn't. And I'm not talking ethically, morally. I'm talking about legally. Does it have any kind of legal requirement that has to do this? No, it doesn't. Now, there may be some stuff that does arise if it's a public company that the government is funding or the government has given like a massive grant to or something. Then maybe, in that specific case, they would, one of the conditions is that you have to employ a lot of people and give them jobs or something. But across the board, generally speaking, no. A public company does not have any kind of duty to give people jobs and thus distribute money to them. That's how that works. So yeah, there you go. In the comments, we have Mary Grace. Mary Grace says, "Good morning. Good morning, Mary Grace. Thank you for joining me today." Okay. Next question. Generic job interview questions will have different answers depending on what level we're at. This is true. Most people got this. I was surprised at how many people realize this is true, because based on a lot of the comments I get for various videos, you don't get that impression. That's why I also think that it's interesting, certainly just on YouTube, YouTube is a little microcosm of the wider world, I guess. And you have different YouTube channels that are in this kind of space. They help people with their careers and passing job interviews. And it's clear that different channels, they cater to an audience at different levels, right? I'd like to think that, my audience is a little bit above sort of the bottom. They're not quite at like the minimum wage, entry level, bottom level, or they're people that are aspiring to climb up beyond the bottom level, right? But there are other people that, in my opinion, kind of cater to people right at the bottom. And that kind of makes sense. That's probably the largest demographic of people on YouTube, the largest audience. But yeah, so that's one of the reasons why there are different answers to these generic job interview questions. Things like, tell me about yourself. Why should we hire you? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Where are you going to be in 5 years? Why did you leave your last job? Things like that. Those generic questions. A lot of people give different answers to them. Some answers are good, and they can appeal to different interviewers, right? Other times, it can be a good answer at a certain level, but not at a different level. For example, at the very low level, let me just go back here. At the very low level, if you're going for an entry-level job and they ask you something like, tell me about yourself, it can be as simple as all you have to do is say something coherent and not say anything negative about yourself that would make the other person think that's a red flag, right? Anything else is fine. You pass, right? That might be fine at an entry level. You go a little bit higher, right? You go to where you're supervisor level, manager level, mid-level manager, and they start off an interview by saying, tell me about yourself. The bar is raised quite a bit there. You can't just say, well, I'm a very kind person and, I enjoy working hard and, that's not going to cut it, right, at that level. So the answer to this question is a definite yes, okay? Your answers are going to change depending on what level you're at. Some things might work at an entry level. They will not work higher up. Okay, I didn't get a lot of comments for this. Yeah, someone even said no comments. Yeah, strange. But there you go. I guess because it's so maybe one-sided. So congratulations to the people who said true. There's a lot of you, and you got it right. Okay, here's a similar question. This was 4 days ago. It says, interviewers will ask the same generic job interview questions depending on what level we're at. Okay, so do they ask the same questions as you climb the ladder, as it were? You go up the org chart. Okay. Now, there is no real right answer. There is Obviously a lot of them overlap, yes, but some of them kind of don't, okay? Most of them are going to be applicable as we move up levels for the most part, except when you get to the executive level. That's a little bit different. But for, say, anything up to a middle manager, it's usually, similar questions. But there are a couple of things that you will not get at the entry level that you will get at the management level, right? Obviously. For a start, anything to do with managing people, right? You'll have a lot more questions to do with interpersonal skills and personal interaction. Okay, how you inspire people, how you direct people. Okay. And, it's funny because this is kind of the topic that a lot of people talk about on social networking when it comes to jobs and stuff. They talk about leadership, and that's a pet peeve of mine because I've heard so much crap that they talk about leadership, this like pseudo stuff that sounds really nice, except that it's completely false. You need to direct people. You need to get them to behave the way you want. One of those behaviors is following rules. Another one of those behaviors is following company policy. Another one of those behaviors is, meeting your supervisors or managers' expectations. There's many ways to do that. Think of how they do that in the military. They order people around, right? It's not about inspiring people. It's not about leading them in a very inspirational way, the one that makes you want to emulate them. That's not the way that's done. Okay? It's by ordering them and then dishing out punishments when it's not immediately done the way you asked, right? So remember, leadership encompasses all of these different approaches, okay? The only commonality is you get people to behave the way you would have them behave. It's as simple as that, okay? So, for example, they may ask you about that when you get to a slightly higher level, okay? And you have to explore these facets of it and show that you know your stuff. You can tell people that have got hard experience when they start talking about this stuff, as opposed to someone that's just, unfortunately, they maybe are just starting out. They haven't really had any experience with that, and they've read a few unfortunate social networking posts about it and got the wrong idea. So anyway, the answer to this is yes. Most people got it right. So congratulations. If you said true, you are on the ball. That's great to see. Once again, not a lot of comments. Okay, next question. And before we get there, I just want to see, we got some people in the chat. Adnan P says, "Hi, mister. How are you today? I'm doing great. Monday these days is my day with like no meetings or anything, so I do live streams. This is my live stream day. That's a great way to start off the week." And how do you say that? Hierophant Bean? Nice. Hierophant says, hello. Hello, Hierophant. I like your name. Okay, so this was the next question. 3 days ago, interviewers look for the same basic qualities and traits depending on what level we're at. Now, this started to divide people a little more, okay? So 73% said true, 27% said false, 27% said false. No comments. Look at that. No comments on this question. 2,500 people responded and voted, but nobody commented. That's interesting. The answer to this is true, okay? As you go up different levels, okay, they're going to look for different qualities, okay? Now, it depends how you interpret the question. This isn't like a, whether you got this right or wrong. If you did answer, whether you got it right or wrong doesn't matter. What I'm trying to do is get people to think about the concept here, okay? Now, obviously, some traits will be universal, right? Are you trustworthy? Are you likable? Are you hardworking? Are you pleasant to deal with? I mean, things like that are pretty universal. It doesn't matter what level you're at. It's still desirable, and it's still a big part of how successful you end up being when you have those things, okay? So, fair enough. However, there are a lot of things that aren't really necessarily required at the bottom that they are higher up, and vice versa, okay? If you're someone that just goes along with whatever suggestion, you're very easygoing, someone says, hey, can you do this for me? You're like, sure, yeah, not a problem. You never really push back, you never complain, because you're genuinely okay with it. You might not have a lot of strong opinions about this kind of stuff, that makes you perhaps want to argue or challenge or question. Those would be great traits at the sort of bottom, at the worker level. You're not paid to make decisions. Other people are paid the big bucks to make decisions. They can flush the entire operation down the toilet with their decisions. Your job is just to do what they ask you to do, right? And you get paid for that. If they want to do all kinds of idiotic stuff, that's fine. That's up to them, right? You don't concern yourself with that. You're just fine doing whatever they say, no matter how idiotic it might get sometimes, right? That's a great trait to have at the bottom. At least that's how it's perceived by a lot of employers. Now, do you necessarily want that in a manager? Of course not. You want someone that's much more invested, much more inspired, much more passionate about what they do and what they think the way forward is, right? So, it's going to vary. So, you can't always do the same job interview that you've done before if you've sort of climbed the ladder a little bit. Okay, even if they ask you the same questions, your answers should change and be appropriate for the level. Okay? Once again, look at that. No comments. No comments. Okay, 2 days ago, here we go with the fun one. There's a fun one every week. Everybody always beats me over the head for having a non-serious question. A lot of people don't realize it's a joke. A lot of people take it literally and take it seriously and then get really upset. It's kind of interesting to watch sometimes. But listen, I'm going to keep doing these because you got to have a little spice in your life. You can't be serious all the time. And even in an area like this where you're talking about jobs and careers, it's certainly not fun for a lot of people. It can be very stressful. It can be the lowest point of your life, pretty much, at least your professional life. Okay, but in my opinion, if possible, we got to try and have a little bit of spark of humor and just good feeling in there. Anyway, so when an unstoppable object hits an immovable object, here are your options. Sparks fly. We need to find out who's the alpha. Many people complain. California falls into the sea. Or a black hole swallows the HR department. That was the winner. The black hole swallows the HR department. I also think that was probably the most grounded in relativistic physics when it came to the answer to the question. But I think answer number 4 is probably the funniest. California falls into the sea. I don't know why that's funny. It just kind of is. And depending on where you live, you might have your own theory as whether that is funny and why that is the case. Got a lot of comments on this one. Some quite witty remarks people make. I'd like to employ a couple of you guys as my gag writers if that's possible. But so thank you to everybody who participated and who took the trouble to comment on this and not get all upset about it. It's great when you guys have a sense of humor. So that's really awesome. Okay, and yesterday, the last poll was this. If you want to be selected for an internship, the best thing to do would be, here are your options. Send in an application. Send in an application, then go talk to the decision maker. This one is better than that one. Okay, so this is a better option than that. This is being completely passive, by the way. Okay, I suppose it's good that you sent in an application. That's something. But this is a lot more effective. Okay? Your third option, go talk to the decision maker, then send in an application. So it's the same as the second option, except that you're doing it in the opposite order. Now, this is preferable. Okay? If you don't know why, a couple of the things going on here is, first of all, when you go talk to somebody, okay, before you even consider how it goes or what you say, okay, already it's signaled to them that you are serious. You care. Because you could have just done this. You could have sent in an application. Okay, that would be the default thing to do. That's what most people are going to do. But you're going above and beyond. You're doing something optional that you didn't need to do. And also, it's something that's optional that is not super easy and enjoyable for a lot of people. Okay? going to talk to someone that presumably you don't know. They're in a position of authority, okay? They are superior to you in the power balance. Presumably, they're deciding whether you get this or not, okay? So that's not easy. It doesn't come naturally to a lot of people, especially introverts, okay? So this is better, okay, than that. It signals certain qualities about you, okay? So how it feels for you is kind of immaterial. What the decision maker is seeing is that they're seeing evidence that you care, you're interested, you're passionate, and you're prepared to go and do optional things in order to have this internship or whatever it is be a reality, okay? Now, the advantage of doing this before you send in the application is that when you then afterwards, there's two obvious reasons. Then afterwards, when you send in your application and it goes to the decision maker, presumably they now know who you are. So they will read your application a little closer. They will consider you a little harder, okay? So that's the first advantage. The other advantage of talking to somebody before you send in the application is that it may further inform you how to complete your application in a way that will give you a better chance, okay? You know, you have a chance to ask questions about maybe what they're looking for, what's involved in the internship, and you know, maybe what would be good to have, what would be good to mention of all the things that you have, what would be the sort of most pertinent things to mention. Okay, so there's several advantages. Those are the two biggest ones for doing it in this order, okay? Now, 47% of you guys said that this was the best thing to do, okay? As far as I'm concerned, that's actually not the right answer. The right answer is this, okay? This is going a step further. Now, if this is a big deal, okay, let's say that you are taking an educational qualification. Maybe it's a 2-year program or something in a college or a university, and they have an internship as part of the program, okay? A lot of people in the comments, there's only 4 or 5 comments. It seemed like there were a lot more. Anyway, a lot of people were commenting about how it should be a paid internship and all this. Okay, fair enough. But I mean, we're talking about an internship in general, and it doesn't really matter what it's for. In this case, it's an internship. It could be for a job. But these options still apply, and this is still the best because you're going a step further. First, you're talking to the host company, okay? So if you do an internship, you're going to be working at a host company, usually without pay or very minimal pay, okay? What you get out of it are non-financial rewards, okay? You're getting experience, you're getting a letter of recommendation, you're getting a networking opportunity, you're getting, maybe a good reference. So you are getting stuff out of it, okay? At least if you're a student and this is part of a educational program, okay? But going and talking to the company first, learning a bit about them, okay? Asking them questions, say, what are you looking for? And what's, stuff like this. Very, very useful. That informs you then how you apply for it and all the things that happen afterwards, okay? So you get even more information. It's also an opportunity for you just by doing this part to elevate yourself above all the other applicants because they're not doing this. Of 300 people that applied, you're the only one that took the trouble to show up, ask some questions. And if you're very friendly and, you're very professional, and they have a good impression of you, you've just given yourself another advantage because now not only do they know you, but they think favorably of you, right? That then further informs all these things that come afterwards. When you then talk to the decision maker, presumably this would be the person at the school that decides who gets to go on the internship and who doesn't, okay? You have an advantage by having talked to the host company. You say, oh yeah, I talked to those people. They told me this, that they were doing this kind of work. Is that kind of, the main point of this internship from your perspective or something like that? Like you're showing even more how interested, how passionate, how diligent you are, and all this kind of stuff, right? And then it further influences in a favorable way how you would fill out your application. Okay, so there's many advantages of doing this. Okay, many advantages. The obvious thing is that most people don't. So if you want to jump to the top of the pile, the figurative pile of resumes, you want to jump to the top, you're the one that showed up. You're the only one of all these people, these applicants, that they've met. And if they met you and they liked you and you were professional and you were, you displayed a lot of good qualities, doubly so, right? So as far as I was concerned, this is the correct answer. Okay, answer number 4 here. Okay, you talk to the parties in advance, then you fill out your application, right? There can also be some indirect pressure. Not that you necessarily want to do this as, the whole point, but it's like the decision maker now knows that when you apply, you've already spoken to these people. They're already familiar with you. Okay? And if you came across really well, maybe they might think that if they don't select you, they're going to be it's going to trigger a little curiosity on the part of the host company. It's like, oh yeah, we met already one person showed up and, we liked them. I was just curious. Well, why didn't they make the cut? Stuff like that. So, there's many sort of forces going on here, but to your advantage. You do the work, you show your interest, you learn a lot about it. It's to your advantage. Okay. This is the stuff they don't necessarily teach a lot of people in school. In school, the idea is that, oh no, everyone should go in absolutely fair, level playing field. Okay? I'm not saying that's bad, but what I am saying is that if people want to go above and beyond, right? First of all, there's absolutely no rules or any reason preventing you from doing that. And number 2, if you do want to go above and beyond because you are more passionate than other people, why not? It's not based on anything slimy. You actually now have superior information and you're much more informed going into this. So it's natural that, you would have an advantage. Anyway, that's that question. I got a few people talking about it. Now, this also applies to jobs in general. Okay, this is one of the reasons why people get advantages by doing networking. And it's also the number one way to get a job is by reaching out to individuals, to people that are decision makers in organizations where you would want to work. You can do informational interviews, you can do all kinds of things, and you get rewarded for that. If nothing else, you're demonstrating conclusively your passion. It's the same reason that when you put volunteer experience on your resume, that's looked upon favorably. Because the thinking goes that if you did this as a volunteer, you're demonstrating that you're not in it for money. You're in it because you genuinely want to do that type of work, right? That's the reasoning. And this follows exactly the same reasoning. Okay, so that's what I wanted to get people thinking about when it comes to this stuff, because as we've already established, people are interested in learning about networking. They're confused about networking. These are some of the principles at play. There's direct benefits where you learn information about the role. You learn important information about the decision makers. You learn important information about what they're looking for or the work they do, right? So you've got intrinsic value. And then in addition to that, you're signaling several things back at them. You're signaling, hey, I'm interested in this. I'm passionate about this. Oh, and I also have great communication skills and I'm really friendly and we get along really well, right? So there's a lot of advantages into doing this. Okay, coming back to the chat here, I see Monologue is here. Monologue is a member. Thank you to Monologue and thank you to the rest of my members, my channel members. You guys are awesome. I really appreciate the show of support. Monologue says, hello, I have a question. What industries are we talking about here? Do you think this applies to most industries or people? This message is written as you're talking about internship. I was not speaking about any particular industry, but one of the common scenarios is if you're if you go to university and you take, like I took engineering, and in engineering, they would have internship opportunities. So, a bachelor degree in engineering, it'd be 4 years. You maybe do the first 3 years, and then there's an opportunity to do an internship between your third and final year. So you go away and you spend like the summer or something working for no money as an intern in a company that employs a lot of engineers, like a local company, big company employs a lot of engineers. Okay. And the idea is that the company, first of all, they get low-level workers for free. So they're really happy about that. What you get out of it is that you get some hard industry experience. You get networking opportunities, you get letters of recommendation, you get references and all that stuff. Okay. You also get to meet and connect with people in that industry. That can be very useful. If they're local connections. Even if that, you don't hit them up for a job directly, you can do informational interviews with them, and maybe they are aware of open job opportunities in that industry in your hometown, whatever. So there's advantages to that. Now that's like engineering. Now there's other disciplines that have internships, but also things like trade school. Like forget about university. Let's say you're in college or you're in trade school, if they're not one and the same, and they'll have internship opportunities there for some schools. Okay. If you take you're learning to be a apprentice for, whatever skill trade, there's some schools will offer internships. So you go and you do unpaid work or very, very low paid work in companies that employ a lot of skill trades. So same advantage, right? You have multiple advantages. You have hard experience, and you're not coming out of school just with education. You're actually coming out with work experience too. And I know that a lot of schools will use that as a selling point because they're trying to get people to enroll in their program. Like their students are essentially customers. So they try and sell this to potential students and say, not only do you get, the educational value of taking this program, but we provide you with an industry internship. We will set you up so that when you walk out of this program, you don't just have a diploma, you have work experience in a leading company in this business that could very well employ you. And it's well known that if you were an intern for a company, when they look to hire permanent people or, regular full-time employees, they look very favorably on the people that were already doing an internship with them because they've gotten a free sample of what you're like, right? And if your supervisor, when you were an intern, says, "Oh, this person was great. They did their work. They were easy to deal with. There were no issues with them whatsoever. They were pleasant to deal with. They were professional," and all that stuff. It's like, there you go. That makes that hire potentially very low risk hire because you've already worked with them, right? So it runs across several industries where they do this. Okay. Any skill trades, and then other things like engineering, if you're going to be a technologist. Those are some technical areas. And I believe there's other areas too that are like not just engineering and technology and skill trades, but they also do internships too. You might even get that, I think, in arts. If you do fine arts, you do film, you do theater, they have internships and stuff so you can get some hard experience. Like if you're, doing a stage production or something like that, they do stuff like that, to my knowledge. That's not really my area of expertise, but it does run the gamut. So you do get this across many industries. Hopefully that makes sense. Yeah, I wasn't thinking necessarily about, if you, instead of applying for a job, you apply for an internship and you're not in school. This isn't part of an educational program. Based on people's comments, there might be people that are doing some underhanded things there, basically saying a job is an internship and not a job, which in a lot of jurisdictions, that's actually illegal, right? So you gotta watch what you're doing there. Monologue says, I wish I had learned more about these when I was small. Now I just want to get a whatever internship to complete my physics degree. Oh, okay. And I'm in Hong Kong. Not sure if it's relevant. Yeah, I mean, do they do internships in physics? I suppose it may be possible if you were to, I don't know, work in a lab or something, you know? Or like, I know it's almost like if you're a graduate student, you work under a professor and you help them with their research at the graduate level. You know, in a way, that's kind of like an internship. You know, you're still learning. You're very much the junior, but you're getting hard experience by helping a professor, and all the networking opportunities are there now. You know, this professor is your mentor, and if they're well connected within their world, like in academia or in the world of physics or whatever, you know, that has some advantages, right? They can give you a reference, they can give a personal recommendation, all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, graduate school, I believe, is kind of like that, like a full-blown internship in a way. But I'm not sure. I didn't go the physics route myself. I took one course in university, a third-year electrical engineering course called Modern Physics. I thought it was absolutely fascinating. In another life, I might have wanted to be a physicist. But my impression, all the cutting edge research in physics is all like particle physics and stuff. It's all like, you know, it's either string theory or quantum mechanics and all this kind of stuff. It's not like physics like 200 years ago. It's like completely different things. You have to go to CERN to do your research and all this. Yeah. I mean, if those kind of places like CERN and those research centers like, I don't know, LIGO, you know, if they have internships, if it's something you want to check out and you have the inclination, I mean, if you can use either LinkedIn or just the wider internet, like Google, to contact people at those institutions and say, like, look, you know, here's who I am, you know, I have this. Do you guys have any kind of formal internship program? Or is, you know, could I, if I were to go there, would you be willing to give me a tour and, you know, or be able to do some interviews with some of your faculty, or, you know, something like that, you know, like maybe that is a way to get your foot in the door for stuff. So if that's something you could do and you're interested and it's applicable to your ambitions and where you want to go, that might be something to explore. I mean, what do you risk? You risk a few hours of your time being wasted, you know, just by contacting people, and, you know, a few hours on the internet, a couple hours on the phone, possibly. You know what I mean? Like, it might be worth doing, looking into. And I'm sure it might end up being like one of those things where if there's, say, 50 institutions the world over, you know, maybe one of them, one you know, professor or professional, like one of the leading people there, might say, you know, we might have something. You know, we might be able to give you some contract work or be able to have some kind of business relationship in this way. You know, there might be some potential there depending on what you're trying to do. If you have abilities to, I don't know, to write, if you can do posts on social media, you have maybe a little bit of a following or something, that might also be a further angle you can use, you know, and say, like, you know, I'm very interested in this. I can publicize what you're doing. If you feed me some of the latest research and, you know, this, maybe a couple of pictures or whatever, you know, I can generate a discussion around that. I can create publicity for you guys, you know, on social networking, that kind of thing. So anyway, there might be a lot of things to explore there, Monologue. Depends kind of, you know, what you're interested in doing and the nature of, you know, what you've got to offer and all this kind of thing. So hopefully that makes sense. Anyway, I want to thank everyone for joining me on Polar Review for this week. I will be back next week at the same time with another one of these. Thank you so much. You guys are awesome. And I will be back in about 20 minutes with my regular job interview, resume, career Q&A called How to Get Hired. Thank you so much, everybody. I wish you all the success. Take care.